What's up, folks? The Mac is back, baby. My knee is repaired. Surgery was a success. And I'm on the road to recovery. That should tell you all you need to know about my mindset. Straight into surgery, knee repaired, and on the road. Let's go. I want to give a shout out to Dominick Cruz, who returned from multiple ACLs to recapture his bantamweight crown. St-Pierre had multiple ACLs. Don't know whether he returned after his second ACL. However, he's doing backflips and his movement is still stellar. Other notables in other sports, NFL, Tom Brady done it. Aaron Peters done it. These are my motivation here, especially the fighting boys. Yup, Cruz. Yeah. Unstoppable, baby. My mindset is unstoppable, unbreakable. I'm gonna do something about this hair. I'm not sure just what yet. But stay tuned, folks. Yeah, I love you all. Mac Energy is available now on Amazon. 4-jar stout if you're having a social one. Enjoy yourself out there, folks. Thank you, God. Thank you so much, God.
July 2026. The lights come up. The crowd roars. Conor McGregor stands across the Octagon from Max Holloway.
Toward the Octagon
and for the first time in half a decade, this is real.
5 years since a leg snapped like a dry branch
since he last heard
Dustin
that cage door locked behind
5
him.
years of
5
chaos,
years of doubt,
courtrooms,
of whispers,
canceled
of a
fights,
world that had already written his obituary as a fighter.
Would ever
a
come
world convinced the
and now here
McGregor
he
era
is,
was something you
37
talked
years
about
old,
in the past tense.
older,
and then,
heavier with
in an
history,
instant, the story turns.
carrying the weight
his
of
knee buckles.
everything that happened
his
outside
leg gives out
the cage,
beneath him.
as much
the
as
same
anything
nightmare,
that happened
the second
inside.
time in his career,
Across from him
tearing through the
stands
same
Max
joint
Holloway,
that once
a
betrayed
man
him
who has
back
never stopped
in
fighting,
2013.
never stopped
the
climbing,
crowd goes
a
silent.
former featherweight
the
king
commentary
who's
goes
already
quiet.
tasted what it
And
means
for a
to share
man
the
who has already
Octagon
been
with McGregor
broken
once
and
before,
rebuilt once
back
before, the question hanging in the air is brutal and simple. Is this really the end? Because here's what almost nobody remembers. This isn't new territory for Conor McGregor. Go back to August 2013. A young, hungry featherweight steps in against that very same Max Holloway, and in the middle of that fight, his knee gives out. Anyone else, in that moment, taps out, calls it a night, protects the future. Not McGregor. He fights through it. He wins the fight on a torn knee, and less than a year later, he's back in the cage, finishing Diego Brandao in front of a roaring Dublin crowd. That single night became the foundation of everything that followed. A featherweight title, a lightweight title, 2 belts at once, a first in UFC history. The birth of a legend built on the refusal to stay down. But legends age, bodies break down, and the years since have not been kind. Rewind to July 2021, Dustin Poirier, trilogy fight, and in one horrifying slow-motion moment, McGregor's leg snaps beneath him on the mat, live in front of millions. That injury didn't just take away a fight. It took away years, real years, in the prime of a fighter's career, gone to rehab, to recovery, to silence. When he finally circled back toward a return in 2024, fate struck again. Another setback, tearing the comeback apart before it could even begin. And outside the cage, his name became tangled in controversy that had nothing to do with fighting at all. A civil case that ended with him found liable, casting a shadow that followed him everywhere he went. Pile it all together, and you get a career that, on paper, should have quietly faded into memory. A cautionary tale. A what could have been. And yet, this past July, against every reasonable expectation, Conor McGregor walked back out under those lights. 38 years old, 5 years removed from real competition, stepping into the Octagon against a dangerous, informed Max Holloway like no time had passed at all. For a moment, it looked like the impossible redemption arc was actually happening. And then the knee, the same joint, the same fighter, the same opponent who watched it happen the first time, over a decade ago. It's the kind of twist you couldn't script if you tried. Cruel, poetic, almost mythological in how precisely it repeated itself. Most fighters, faced with that kind of history repeating itself, would read it as a sign, a message from the universe telling them to walk away for good. But this past Wednesday, the world got its answer. And it wasn't retreat. It was surgery. Successful. Immediate. No hesitation, no delay. Straight into the operating room and straight onto the road to recovery. And then, on Friday, McGregor stepped in front of a camera to speak directly to everyone who had already counted him out. What he said wasn't just an update. It was a declaration. He looked into that lens, and then came the words that are already spreading across every corner of combat sports media. Unstoppable, baby. My mindset is unstoppable, unbreakable. Simple words, but loaded with everything this man has been through. The caption that followed hit even harder. Surgery done. Knee repaired. The doubters can keep talking. I didn't run from the pain. I walked straight into it. Now the real work begins. Comeback season starts now. No shortcuts. No excuses. Just the will to rise again. Read that again. This is a man fully aware of what people are saying behind his back. Too old. Too injury-prone. Too far removed from his prime. And instead of hiding from that narrative, he's charging directly at it, using it as fuel. Because remember, this fight against Holloway wasn't just any fight. It was supposed to be the beginning of the final chapter of his current UFC contract, with eyes already turning toward next summer for one last run. Now that timeline is in jeopardy, hanging entirely on how his body responds to this surgery, how a 38-year-old frame handles a second reconstruction of the exact same knee. History says it's possible. Cruz did it. St-Pierre did it. But history also says it's brutal, unforgiving, and never guaranteed. There is no script writing itself here. No guarantee that grit alone rebuilds torn ligaments. And that is exactly what makes this moment so gripping to watch unfold. Because this isn't just about one fighter's knee anymore. It's about whether willpower can actually outlast biology. It's about whether a legacy already this complicated, already this scarred by injury and controversy, can still find one final, defining chapter. So here's where it stands. The surgery is done. The knee is repaired. The words are bold. The motivation is public. And the countdown toward next summer has already begun in his mind, even if his body hasn't caught up yet. The next few months will be the real fight, quiet, grinding, unglamorous, played out in physical therapy rooms far away from any camera or crowd. No cheering fans, no highlight reels, just the slow, painful work of rebuilding a joint that has now failed him twice. Whether Conor McGregor walks back out under those lights one more time, whether he becomes the next name on that list alongside Cruz and St-Pierre, or whether this is finally the chapter where the story doesn't bend to his will, nobody can say for certain. Not yet. All we know is this.
Ever
He's been counted out
is
before.
Walking back toward the Octagon
written off,
after
buried,
5 long years
dismissed
away.
as finished
5
more
years
times than
since
most
a leg
fighters ever
snapped
face
like a
in a
dry
lifetime.
branch
And
against
every
Dustin
single
Poirier.
time, he has
5
made the
years
doubters
of
watch him
chaos,
rise again.
core